Good morning, students. Welcome to Federal Government College Port Harcourt e-learning. I am Mrs. Chisom Nna Ebere, your computer studies teacher. Today I'll be discussing a topic called the high-level language. It says 3 students. The topic high-level language, which is an abbreviation HLL. Before we go further to the topic, let's talk about specific objectives. Specific objective is what is expected of the students to know at the end of the lesson. So for high-level language, it is expected that the students by the end of the lesson should be able to 1. Define high-level language, 2. State examples of high-level language, classify the high-level language based on a suitable application, 4. State the advantages of high-level language over machine language and low-level language, which is in the abbreviation ML and LLL. 5. State the disadvantages of high-level language. Before the holiday, we handled a topic called programming language, and during that time we talked about what we called examples of programming language, which we meant mentioning of high-level language, machine language, and low-level language. So today we'll be talking about high-level language. Like I said before, we'll be using the abbreviation HLL, which means high-level language. High-level language is a programming language that enables a programmer to write programs in a human readable format. What do we mean? It is a programming language that uses a human readable form to write its language, to write its program, unlike the machine language you talked about, where I told you that it is written in code, in binary, that is zeros and one. But high-level language is a particular language that enables the programmer to use what we call human readable form, or what we call English-like statements, to write its program. The language the computer can understand is the machine language, which we call in brackets binary code, because it uses zeros and one to write its language. A high-level language contains easy-to-read syntax that is later converted into machine language, which can be recognized and run by the central processing unit. The high-level language is easier to understand, learn, and implement, and more like human language. Therefore, every single program written in high-level language must be interpreted into machine language before being executed by the computer. It requires a compiler or an interpreter to translate the high-level language to machine language. Let me explain further. I remember I said that is a language that is written in human readable form. Now, when we talk about that is easy to read, the syntax that is later converted into machine language, what it means is that since it's not the language of the computer, a particular language has to translate it into the machine readable form, this can be done with what we call the interpreter or the compiler. That is what we mean in this statement that says it requires a compiler or an interpreter to translate the high-level language to a machine language. Then the next thing we're going to talk about is examples of high-level language. Examples of high-level language. Some of the examples are abbreviation, which I will still tell you the meaning, why some are written in the normal actual name that is being called. The first one here, there are many, but I think I have 8 here. The first one is basic. Basic meaning beginners or symbolic instruction code. Beginners or symbolic instruction code. The next one is Fortran, meaning formula translation. The other one is Java, which means just another visual accelerator. Just another visual accelerator. They are all examples of high-level language. We have C++, we have Python, we have Visual Basic, we have Pascal, and the last one here is what we call COBOL, meaning Common Business Oriented Language. Then the next thing we're going to talk about is classification of high-level language based on suitable applications. Here, the high-level language is classified in 3 different forms based on each suitable application. In other words, based on where you can apply it to. That is how it's classified. And each classification has a particular programming language that can be used to achieve such purpose. The first one is scientific. The second one is general purpose. The third one is artificial intelligence. Now let's pick it one after another. Scientific classification of high-level language. The programming language is optimized for the use of mathematical formula and matrices and other scientific purposes. Example, that is the examples of the program that can use to achieve this is Fortran, C++, Python, Algol, and Basic. What this one is talking about is that the high-level language is classified based on these 3, which the first one is scientific, meaning that it is still a program that gives room for science. You can use it to solve your mathematics and every other one. And the programming language that can do this particular one are these ones I put here as the examples. The Fortran, which I told you earlier on, that is Fortran is formula translation, C++, Python, Algol, and Basic. Then the next classification based on suitable application is general purpose. This is a programming language designed to be used for writing softwares in a wide variety of application domain. What it means is that high-level language has also different programs that you can use to develop a software, to design a software that can use to achieve so many things. Just like the name general purpose, you can develop a software using these programming languages that can be used to solve so many things. And the programming language that I can use to do this is Basic is still there, Java, Pascal, COBOL, C language. The program is used to solve wide variety of problems. In other words, it gives you room to also develop software that can be used to achieve a lot of things, to solve a lot of problems. The next one is artificial intelligence. There is no specific language for this AI. The abbreviation for artificial intelligence is AI. So there is no specific language for artificial intelligence. There are varieties of programming language that could be used to develop artificial intelligence system. And this one is one we call LISP, meaning least processing. Least processing is a programming language that was designed for easy manipulation of data. And another one here is one we called Java, which I've told you what it means before. I said it means just another visual accelerator. The next one is to classify this high-level language again based as integrated. After this one, the next one will be as compiled. I remember I told you from the first one during the introduction, I said it is a programming language that is written in human readable form. And because it is not written in machine language, it needs what we call a translator, which can be either an interpreter or a compiler, to translate it to a language of the computer. So this one is classified based on that interpreter, which we said classified as integrated. There are ways it's being done. They are not done the same way. Let's look at this one. We said interpreted language involves the program that the source code is executed line by line. In other words, when the execution is done, it is being done one by one, not as a whole. Its implementation executes instruction directly and freely without previously compiling into machine language. I said its implementation executes instruction directly and freely without previously compiled into machine language instructions. Like what I've said before, it is being done one line by line. The first line must be, you finish translating the first line, the next one you move to the second line, like that until to the end of the program. It requires an interpreter that executes the program directly, translating each statement into a sequence of one or more subroutines already compiled into machine code. And the examples of the programs here will still have BASIC, Java, Python, etc. Then this one is classification as compiled. Compiled language involves where the program once compiled is expressed in the instruction of the target machine. Its implementation are compilers, that is in brackets, translators that generate machine code from source code. The source code is the one written by the programmer, which will be translated into the machine language. Unlike interpreter that has to do with step by step, like I said, line by line execution, it does step by step execution. That is the interpreter. It does step by step execution of the source code. The compiled languages are written in a code that can be executed directly by a computer processor, and the examples there are Pascal, COBOL, C language, and Fortran. Features of high-level language. Features of high-level language. What are the features? Number one, it must be interpreted or compiled to execute the program. Like I said before, if the program must be executed, that is, if it must be run, it's either you use interpreter to translate it into the machine language, or you use compiler. That is what this first step is talking about. It must be interpreted or compiled to execute the program. Number two, high-level language allows the program to be detached and separated from the machine. You can detach it from the machine, you can separate it from the machine. The third one is high-level language deals with variables, arrays, objects, etc., rather than dealing with registers, memory, and address. Because it is not a machine language, it doesn't deal with these registers, memory, and it deals with the variables, the objects, and the arrays. Then advantages of high-level language. Advantages of high-level language. Number one, it is similar to human language, which makes it easier to code, debug, or maintain. It is easier to human language. I've explained that before. And because it is human friendly, that is, the language is human friendly, it is easier for you to code it. It is easier for you to dictate an error. It is easier for you to maintain it. The second one is they are user friendly. Of course, when it's written in a language that you can easily understand, it makes it user friendly. The third one, they provide high level of abstraction from machine language. The next one, they are machine independent. It doesn't depend on a particular machine. The fifth one, they are easy to learn. Of course, being that is user friendly, they are easy to learn. The last but not the least is they are used to develop desktop application, websites, etc. Disadvantages of high-level language. disadvantages of high-level language. They cannot be communicated directly with the hardware. The next one, it must be translated to machine code to execute an instruction. They are slower in processing. Why? Because it goes through translation before it can be processed. The next one, they are generally less memory efficient because it doesn't work with memory, it works with variables and all that. Then the last one here, the program development is faster. This is where we'll end the lesson. But before the assignment, the summary of what we talked about is that high-level language is a language that is written in human readable form. It's user-friendly. It's a language that you can easily maintain and dictate the error and so on. So that is the end of the lesson for today. Before we close for the lesson, the assignment for today's lesson, we'll have two assignments here. The first one said write out two differences between high-level language and machine language. The next one is state two disadvantages of high-level language over machine language. Remember, in our previous classes we talked about machine language. So with that, you can be able to answer or solve these assignments. Thank you for listening. God bless you.